All right, so today I'm joined by Wicked. Thanks so much for taking the time today, guys. I'm really looking forward to chatting.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having us.
brother.
Yeah, of course. So I guess just to begin, can you all just introduce yourselves, maybe give a brief background on the band, how you formed, when you formed?
Absolutely.
What's up? I'm Danny. I play bass in Wicked. This is my brother.
Chad Michael, lead singer, rhythm guitarist.
I'm Scotty V, lead guitar.
I'm Gunnar. I play the drums.
Yeah, we started probably. What do you think it's been? It's kind of been like almost a decade of us just being together as a group.
We're a new band. Our first album just came out.
But that's how it goes, man. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you know, I think the biggest thing is people don't know the work that goes into like musicians' careers, and like all the stuff that it takes to get to a certain point. And just like probably many of your favorite artists, like, you know, we've been beating the streets and like learning how to be a band for a while now. But you know, the whole project started with my brother and I when we were back like in central New York, just like thirsty for music that we couldn't find anymore. You know, growing up on AC/DC,
It's all that like, you know, 70s like theatrical rock that like you kind of like
Alice Cooper.
hungry for. You're like, okay, where is it nowadays? And
It just doesn't. It just isn't
it
the
didn't
same.
exist, so we're like-
it didn't exist. So we're like, we want to make that again, right? But we need guys to put the project together, and it was just like, it was the funniest story. Like, you know, just like many other bands, like, all right, like we need to find somebody who has the heart and drive and gets the vision, but looks the part. And we found Scotty online on this site called, what was it called?
Glam Nation.
It was kind of like a MySpace
There's
thing.
two of them. There was like opposing versions. There was like the sleazy like Motley Crue version that was Glam Nation, and then there was like the more prissy like Poison version that was Mama's Fallen Angels. They're like the
Never
same
heard of
thing.
So it was like a dating site for musicians. It was like, okay, I'm gonna find. Oh, look at that guy! He's got freaking long blonde hair and looks
feathers
super
dangling out of his
androgynous. Like, I don't care if he can play guitar, he'll learn. Like, let's take him. So Scotty joined the band. He came over one weekend and stayed the weekend. Learned a set that we were gonna play. Like 15 songs, and like one day he had to learn it, and the rest is history. He never left. We've been living together since. And then Gunnar, he well, really, I mean, he used to be a lot shorter when we started the band.
When
and he
I
had
joined,
like
these
a
guys
buzz
hated me
cut.
before I joined, and then I joined the band, and all of a sudden they loved me.
We used to call him JP, and then he started, you know, eating his Wheaties, and he grew a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
for those who don't know Wicked lore, there was a different drummer before Gunnar for the first like 3 years. He was a great guy. He just, you know, he had health problems, couldn't cut it out. It was JP Clubs. Love you, JP. But you know, he had to step out for health reasons, and then it was the funniest thing because the year before you joined, there was this drummer competition in our like tri-state area, and it was like the runner. It was him versus our drummer, and we were like, that Gunnar guy. Out of JP, but then we stole him, so
Yeah.
it worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Was that long enough for
Was
you?
that just one?
That was good. That's a perfect intro.
Last question.
No, that was good. So I actually saw you guys years ago. I don't even know how long ago. I was probably like 13 or 14 at
That's awesome.
Debonair Music Hall in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, good old Desiree.
I don't know who you opened for, but I remember you guys. So
Was it before COVID? Before
yeah.
COVID?
Oh yeah.
So that maybe
It was probably
Right, Gene-
Freely's Comment or
Gene Bouvard or whatever his name
it was Jean Beauvoir. Yeah.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Good.
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, lucky it wasn't the Freely's Comet show because that show's got a great story.
Yeah, I had too many Jaeger shots, and I was so messed up. I don't even know how I got through the show.
his eyes were rolling back in his
I
head.
played every song like 20 beats below the tempo.
He was pure white, like, and Gunnar's Achilles heel is Jaeger, just in case anybody wants to take him down. But he at the end of the show, like, we always come out, like one of the big things. Like you gotta come to a Wicked concert because
photo.
not only are we like theatrical and high energy, and you know we like to think that we have good songs, but we always like to engage with our community and our fan base, or maybe new potential fans, and like just be real people and like come out, do some pictures, do some signings, maybe just chat and hang. And like, so we're like, all right, come on, let's go out and meet the crowd at that Freely's Comic Show when Gunnar was on the Jaeger. And Gunnar was so white, and he's standing next to me, and we're like taking a picture. There's this like hot girl in the middle, and he's like, I'm gonna throw one. You're not. You are absolutely not gonna throw one.
I'm gonna throw one. There's a famous photo.
It's an 8. If you go to a show, it's an 8x10. These guys made it a 8x10. So
if you go back far enough on our Facebook, you'll see there's plenty of versions of it. We used it for like multiple flyers and stuff.
There's memes out there of it too.
Memes, yeah, we
But it's like, after we do a bow, we're all like, we're like, this is the end of the show. And Gunnar's like, his eyes are rolling back. He looks like he's like, dying.
I go in the back. I specifically remember going through all that for these comic guys. I go in the bathroom, and I look like I got shot with a shotgun. I fly back
on the floor.
I was throwing up.
He had like
everywhere.
one hand in the toilet, and like his other arm, I don't know where. And we're like, "Dude, you okay?"
Yeah,
and it's like, "Oh, this is embarrassing." Well, at least you didn't throw up on Freely's Comic.
Crazy.
So we had to like get him out of there quick. But
yes, sir.
That's the Debonair Music Hall for you. So next time we're in town, don't miss the Debonair.
Yeah.
Round two.
It's usually pretty interesting at Debonair.
Anyway, you got any more questions?
That's funny. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, can you talk about the importance of entertaining an audience and how you guys specifically go about doing it? Because I definitely remember you guys coming out after the show and everything, and you're very engaging on stage. Sort of where did that come from, like the desire to do that?
You know, it's really weird because the way that all started was, our shows locally here where we live, it's such a community where you have like, you could have someone in a suit, you could have someone who's like a punk rocker, someone who's like just in casual like sweatpants and sweatshirt, and all those people are like kind of mingling together. It becomes like this community of like people who, doesn't matter what what you're from or what you do
or what your day was like,
what your day was like, you just come together, enjoy a rock show, So like during the show, we kind of make that a theme where we're trying to bring people together, have them like introduce each other to someone they don't know, or handing out shots and get them engaged, or singing parts like frequently,
Well, we do in the middle of the set. We'll have a point where we tell everybody to like talk to somebody they don't know in the crowd and like shake hands or like give somebody a hug.
And maybe someone met their lifetime friend after that,
Yeah,
it's a lot of this, but it's also a lot of this.
Yes.
And for me, when I play, it's like I play like I want to show. Like I play like I want to see, it's for me a drummer. Like I want to show somebody what they've never seen before. So I think that goes pretty much.
Yeah, and like people will like they'll start to notice it like when we go from town to town, venue to venue. It's like, oh, you guys bring a drum riser. It's like, yeah, to your point, like we like every person in the band is a part of the entertainment factor. Gunnar especially, right? Like so we want to get him up and visible, because if you're missing the drums, you're missing a huge part of the show. And sometimes we like to fog him out.
I wish we could have a riser that goes down.
Where'd he go? No, but I mean really it comes from like we grew up on like Chad mentioned earlier, like the 70s rock and roll, the theatrics, like those Alice Cooper theatrics, but less of, the theater stuff like that Alice did was cool, but we were really, we were enthralled by really like the Ziggy Stardust album by David Bowie. I mean, that started us, and we went down this I call it somewhat of a phase. It's really not a phase. It's like it's more of like a bloodline like that we have, and it is the glam rock, culture and scene, New York Dolls, but like that Ziggy Stardust, era, like it was androgyny, it was the stage costumes, it was the attitude, and it was like the controversial interplay between Bowie and Mick Ronson, where we were like, God, we gotta like be able to like bring out those moods and those feelings on the stage, but also couple it with that community thing, like Chad said. And like that's, you probably saw us, like we used to have like these stage outfits through the years. We would make these outfits, and we started off like being very like extreme.
Yeah.
And I think that started with like when we were a statement. When we were kids, we wanted to be as extreme as possible, make a statement, hair spiked to the sky, the boots, 7-inch platform boots, grew up, loving like what was going on in Europe with Crash Diet and Hardcore Superstar and bands like that. So it was really cool. We were really like building like off of like this movement, but it never really took a foothold in the U.S. as much, and we still loved it. But as we progressed through our career, we started to, and you'll see it like going into now, we started to like say, okay, like how do we evolve our eras into like our writing process and our music and our community, right? And our community had changed a lot, and we changed a lot too as we evolved. So like you're gonna start to see like this progression of like maybe like back 5 years ago what Wicked was visually to now, right?
If I can interject on that whole thing is we're all 90s kids. Like we grew up with like Sublime and Third Eye Blind and stuff like that.
Sum 41.
Yeah. That was the music that was popular when we were like, young kids, middle school, high school and stuff like that. And even like Jen and I were a little younger. It was like My Chemical Romance and all that stuff. So we had a lot of different influences where that's really what we grew up listening to. And then later on, we kind of found like the hard rock and like the sleaze stuff because it kind of started happening. That all started happening literally
when we were starting the
band.
When we
started the band. Yeah. So we were hot on that because that's just what was current.
So it's pretty cool because we started to wake up like to this notion of like we don't have to be in a box, right? Like it,
what really turns us on, right?
Like we could take our influences from Crash Diet and our influences from Sum 41 and all these different things and the 70s and the 90s, and we could start just putting them into a melting pot and saying like there's no rules here, like, and I think that's liberating because we don't have to change who we are. I don't have to cut my hair, and I don't have to be a sellout. I'm just being me. I'm being more of me than
you never know. Like next era, I might be wearing like a studded Speedo. I've been bugging these guys. Trying to get them. Let them.
No one's telling you can't wear anything.
You don't really see that when the album comes out. You can probably see it now in Lost in the Dark compared to the last album that came out. Like it's a complete 180. You know what I mean? From the sound, what it sounds like.
It still sounds
it's evolving. You know what I mean?
But you're hearing more of what like our OG influences are that like we grew up with.
Yeah.
And it's gonna continue throughout the next few singles and when you hear the full album. And we have a whole other album recorded that we're not going to talk about yet, but it just gets more and more crazy.
You definitely covered a lot of ground, and that definitely leads me well into my next question. Earlier, you mentioned a little bit of what was happening in Europe and presumably like the early 2000s with bands like Crash Diet or now like Crazy Licks. So your 2022 release is called The Last American Rock Band. Do you guys really feel like one of the last American rock bands, or could you at least touch on the current state of rock music?
So we were looking, we said a part of that album release was like a bunch of the songs were reworked that were like old classic Wicked songs on that, and then a few new ones. And we really wanted the Last American Rock Band album to be like a turning point for ourselves and for our fans to kind of say like, hey, like we've never given you, we've put out a bunch of like limited demos, like kind of like back in the day when Metallica used to like tape trade and like all that kind of crap with like CDs and stuff. But we're like nothing's really been official, and we want to have that official release and kind of pay homage to like those years of growing up and
learning and cutting our teeth.
Yeah, like cutting our teeth and learning to be a band, like a real rock band. So that's kind of what we did, but we didn't have a title, and like we were like, kind kind of want to be snarky about this one, and we're like, let's call it the Last American Rock Band. You know, and no, I mean, there's you know, we've actually made a concerted effort, you know, as of this year to like, you know, we're super busy guys. We're, like I said, we live together. We're always working on our project. But it's really important to, again, build that community, and a part of that is not only expecting people to come and support you, but also to go out and support other people. So we've started on a small scale locally, you know, going out and just like taking time, putting time aside to like support local metal and rock bands, and even like, you know, we've got friends that like got a country band and this and that. And it's building that community and that scene. So the album name was snarky and kind of like kind of a jab.
I would kind of say it was more of like a.
But it was more like at the corporate level,
it was
right?
more of like a call to action, like say, prove us wrong. We want more American rock bands. We don't see a lot of them, so
yeah. And it's like it's such a weird time because like, you know, you look out there and you see like this aging like era of the mega, you know, rock bands like Kiss and Motley Crue and Judas Priest, and like, you know, it's always been very frustrating, like as rock fans and musicians, to see the industry like just blood sucking, and more power to them and the Rolling Stones and these bands. Like, I mean, I hope too that us one day could be that age and still doing what we love. So again, like nothing against it, but like it is really a blood sucking like thing of the industry to like just be like only keeping the money and the spotlight on like these heritage acts.
And on top of that,
and not investing in the future, you know what I mean?
The future, and on top of that, it's the whole tribute band thing that's like crazy right now. It's like that was another thing. It's like I don't think you can, if you're a tribute band, you can consider yourself an American rock band if you don't have a single original song.
Yeah, I mean,
original thoughts.
Again, it's like it's respect to people who like enjoy that, because like we're all about people being happy and like doing what you love. So like if you want to be in a cover band or a tribute band, more power to you.
It's not like
good for you,
fault.
but
it's more like,
no, it's not the band's fault. But like we live in a society, in our point of view nowadays, where like that's a little bit of the problem with the music industry, is like in terms of the public, like they're so now drilled in and ingrained with this like notion that's really driven by clubs and promoters that, hey, like, you know, familiarity, like, hey, like we're gonna, instead of hiring a band that, you know, might be working hard at something, like we're gonna put in a cover band, and that's okay because it's like a built-in jukebox. I'm making my dollar at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, and people will go along with that, and they'll attend those things, and it creates this rub in like the scene and the creation, right? And like it's just easier to go and do that if you want to make a dollar. But we're a little different, you know. We'll take the hit on the wallet to like put our creativity and our passion and our goal in front of that.
Yeah, I mean, all that's great. I definitely found, like, as you know, in an enjoyer of this music myself, sometimes it's hard to find those bands who are creating new music and who are doing what I want, because the scene is flooded with tribute acts, cover acts that, you know, I love the music they're playing, but I would so much rather support a band who's, you know, putting blood, sweat, and tears into, you know, making new work, and whether that's, you know, specifically live or in the studio. I mean, both are valid, and focusing on one over the other is okay too. You know, a lot of bands that I've sort of found don't play in New York. So I tend to go to the discography because I'm like, okay, well, it's cool. I wish I could see you though, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all a very interesting conversation for sure. Especially, I mean, subgenre in rock and metal music can divide people, but
which I find I'm glad you made that point. Like, I'm curious to hear like the rest of your take on it, because like I feel like, you know, people get so weirded out about subgenres and like genres in general, and it's like, dude, at the end of the day, if you go back to the 70s, Alice Cooper was playing with Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and you know, these drastic different genres, but at the end of the day, it was all about like good music and entertainment. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, people are. It's even just like the genre labeling itself, like the act of doing it is very divisive, I've found. And I'm a young guy. I mean, I'm in college now, and you know, I posted TikToks and stuff to try and promote my college radio show. And one time I said something like, we're going to be talking about 80s rock, or I said, let's talk about 80s metal. And I showed a picture of Bon Jovi, and people flipped out because they were like, that's not metal, you know, whatever it was. And I was like, well,
Bon Jovi
Sucks.
Gunnar loves Bon Jovi.
He's got a personal event against Bon Jovi. I love Bon Jovi.
yeah, I was talking about early Bon Jovi, and you know, when they were like, Bon Jovi was on tour with Rat, so I was talking about that, and people were just like, oh my god, whatever. The people were all up in arms. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like people can get really divided, and it's at the end of the day, we all love music, so there's no real point to be kind of like pissed off about one thing or the other. I mean, you know.
And the thing too about like supporting other you know, creatives, other acts, just being fans and not being divided, to your point, is like it's more fun when you're not uptight and like when you just like let your guard down and say, hey, I'm gonna enjoy myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's refreshing, I think. Maybe one day people will start to kind of understand that. Maybe not, but we, you know, like I said, like from an influence standpoint, we like to keep it like that and keep it fresh, because I think too, if I was narrow-minded and all I listened to was Crash Diet, like I would never make anything more than a copy of Crash Diet. You know what I mean? Like, so it's almost like a respect thing too, if you're an artist, right? Like, is to give respect by saying, like, I'm going to be open to, you know, maybe I listen to a Sheryl Crow song and there's a sick riff in there that I could turn into a hard rock song, you know what I mean? Like,
so that's the crazy thing about our writing process is, like, we don't go in like...
There's no barriers or boundaries to, like, what we're going to let seep in as an influence. At the end of the day, the important thing is that whatever seeps in or comes through the creative process is melted down to the Wicked brand, because just inevitably, like, that's just what we do, you know what I mean? So it's filtered in and just becomes another part of the collective creative process. Like, yeah.
I wanted to sort of bring that back to your single Lost in the Dark. You had mentioned before that you were taking inspiration from some of the bands you grew up with, you know, your 90s kids, Sublime, I think you mentioned. I definitely noticed, as someone, you know, who heard your other album, that it's a different sound. So can you talk more about leaning into that? I know you said you're sort of taking inspiration from other places. So how, I guess what I'm asking is, you know, do you see this as like a new phase of the band, like you were kind of mentioning before?
I think it's a gradual evolution.
I think Wicked's always going to be having like this, like, you know, teeter-totter of like really hard rock songs, some like, you know, Lost in the Dark kind of like pop, melodic songs, like power pop tunes, and then like even like maybe some progressive stuff, like where it's like a 70s like a, I don't know, like a Stones like breakdown type of thing. Like we're so fluent with how we write, and like when it hits us, it's just kind of like, when we're writing it, just like, it's almost like lightning in a bottle. Like you can't ever get that part, you know, that moment back. It's like when it hits you, and it's like, damn, this is good. And I don't care if people think that it's not rock or it's not sleaze or it's not glam. This sounds awesome to us, and it makes us happy. And like, we just kind of want to put that out there, and like,
well, and like I said, it boils down to, it becomes our brand. So we're comfortable with who we are. It does sound different. You know, you might have been going in that direction.
Well, the thing I was gonna get at is, like we said before, the Last American Rock Band, the majority of that album is re-recordings from songs we've written
when we were like
8 to 10 years ago. And we're like, these are great songs. They need to have a proper recording and a proper release. So we did that. And even the albums on Sunburn coming out are a few years old too. And it's like we write so much. It's like it's hard to describe it. Not to like to toot our own horn. We write so much, and we every year improve our writing process. That like
Yeah.
the album
Hard to
that,
keep up with.
the album that we can't release
There's
as fast as
there's
we like.
there's
So
latency.
the
Yeah.
But
album
to answer your question, it is a gradual evolution. You'll see it.
But I think,
maturing.
well, yeah, and
Right, yeah.
like Chad said, I think it's the evolution is maturing. Maturing not meaning like it's better. Maturing meaning like
just the next step.
we are aging and we are learning and we are growing and our lives are changing, and so therefore, you know, we're not revisiting the mindset and the emotion that we had when we
We're
were
never gonna be the band.
21 and 16.
We're never gonna be the band
Yeah.
that writes the same album 100 times.
Yeah.
It's gonna be different every album.
Yeah.
That's how it's gonna be.
And like, you know, when we got to Lost in the Dark, like we actually recorded the Last American Rock Band and the upcoming album Sunburn that Lost in the Dark is
In the
a
same
single off
sessions,
of in the same session. So we actually did it. We built this studio in our house, and our producer Nacho Molino, who, you know, is a 10-time Grammy producer from Panama, Latin America. You know, worked with Ruben Blades and all these acts, but you know, this guy is like, he's a savant when it comes to engineering. Very intelligent, but a big Pantera fan and like, you know, rock and metal fan. The whole story of us getting together really was this turning point, and we did all this recording at the same time. And it's funny, like, to hear you like be able to still hear the difference just based on the songs and the writing.
Well, it goes to show you, right?
It was in the same
they were all
recording
recorded in the
process.
same
Yeah.
time, but the songs were
Same
written in
room,
completely
same
different decades.
instruments. Yeah. So it was cool, and we were listening to a lot of Toto and a lot of 38 Special, Boston, you know, Thin Lizzy, and like when we did our release show for Lost in the Dark at Record Archive, this super killer record store locally. It was an intimate setting, and it was kind of fun. We planned this whole like thing where we did this whole set, but we built up to the point where we were going to celebrate the single, and we teased the crowd with, you know, what did we do? We did like a little bit of Dancing in the Moonlight teaser, then stopped, and then we did
38 Special.
38 Special, Hold On Loosely, and then we did like Hold the Line.
It was a medley we did before we went into the song. It was kind of-
Yeah, and like we kind of got people pumped up, and we're like, oh yeah, like you like all that? Well, that's all the kind of stuff that went into this influence, you know what I mean? And it was so true. And we even kind of like laughed ourselves as we had to learn those little like sections of those medleys of those songs, because we're like, yeah, remember that? That is like, it's so funny how like that truly was like one of the influences that went into it. And you know, Lost in the Dark was pretty cool because it was, like I said, a gradual
That was one of the first ones, right?
Yeah,
That's
a gradual first evolution of us like getting a little, sticking our toes in that water. And you know, even in the lyrical writing, we're gradually like getting a little bit more like, you know, we're evolving, and we're touching on some different things. And I just think it's so exciting because as, at least from my perception as the artist, I'm expecting it to be exciting for a fan, because they're never going to get a rehash, like Scott said. They're going to always be able to expect like the unexpected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's awesome. Unfortunately, we're a little short on time here. Right? We only have 3 minutes left, but
that's good.
Nah.
yeah. My last question really is just for you guys. Anything that you want to announce that you haven't announced yet, whether it be about new music that's coming out, any upcoming shows, social media accounts, whatever you guys want to plug. Go for it.
So we'll give you guys the exclusive announcement. We've got another single dropping on December 8th.
December 8th. Yeah.
So look out for that. We'll keep it a surprise which one it is. You guys can keep guessing.
With a land video.
Music video with it as well.
Hit us up on social media. Everything is at Wicked Rock and Roll, and our website, wickedrockandrollofficial.com. Listen, we've got, you know, Lost in the Dark is streaming on all digital platforms. You know, check out the music video on YouTube. You know, like, subscribe. you know, as like music lovers and talking to the fans, like you guys can't forget, like, you know, you guys engaging and, you know, hitting the subscribe or liking stuff or getting interacting, like, is important to keep this whole thing moving forward. Like I said, it's all about community and scene. And we appreciate it. We appreciate the love. But we have a new single coming out December 8th. Get ready for that. And then we'll probably have some more surprises going into early next year when the album will be dropping. So stay tuned. We're super excited for the journey of this new release and what's coming after that. And we've got more albums in the tank ready. So there's no stop in the future for Wicked Rock and Roll. So we love you guys and appreciate it.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right.